Hey YouTube, heading out to the junkyard today. We're going to do a little bit of a brake mod on my Jeep. So this video is going to be about switching from a pre-94 Jeep Cherokee brake booster and master to a later model with the bigger booster and better master to give you a little bit more stopping power. So when I get out there, I'll show you what I'm going to do and we'll go from there.
Okay, so when you get to the junkyard and you're ready to find your part, like I'm doing, you're going to want to find a 95 to 96 Jeep Cherokee or a 93 to I think it's 98 Grand Cherokee, and then they changed things over in 99 to 04. That will still work. This system won't work when the master looks like that. If you're looking at a Grand Cherokee, you want a master cylinder, it looks like that, which is similar to the Jeep Cherokee. Preferably you want a Jeep Cherokee because they both years, 95 and 96, do have a shorter, the rod from the pedal to the booster here is short, like it needs to be, and only a few of the Grand Cherokees were like that. This is a perfect candidate, this 95 Cherokee. This holds fluid just fine because I see it's got a little fluid in it. It's in good shape, pretty clean, but this is the bigger booster, and so what I'm going to do is unbolt the booster and master together and take them with me, and then I'm going to cut these lines right here and take this proportioning valve too, so I can keep all the lines and make sure I have all that. And then to unbolt out of the car, there's going to be 4 bolts up under your dash, wherever they are. There's one. So there's going to be 4 of those, one there, and then on the other side. And then you have to also come in here and detach the brake pedal from the rod. So I got to figure out how that works in this car. I already know how to do it in the Cherokee, but not this newer one. But you can see there's the rod that comes in. I think you can see it. So that's what you're looking for. Let me pull it out and we can go from there. Okay, so here's the booster and master I pulled out of the other Jeep. It'll have a little gasket like that, and then there'll be an aluminum spacer behind it. You should get that. You never know if you're going to need it, because some of the things that are crucial in this conversion are this rod length. Another thing, make sure you grab the vacuum hose with it in case, and then these brake lines, focus on those. They may or may not fit depending on which car you pull this out of. That's why preferably you use a 95 or 96 Cherokee. They should have one smaller and one larger fitting. I'm not even guaranteeing that that's going to fit up to my proportioning valve, but at least I have a chance. And if not, then either you can get adapters or you can redo the lines, borrowing some of the fittings from your old setup and your new setup. So this is basically the unit. It's pretty lightweight. It's bigger, obviously, than the one in the pre-94 Cherokees. But if you can see the rod, there it is. The other big deal on this is that the rod length is correct, and so I preferably I've read that you want the rod length, the shorter rod length, which the 95 and 96 Jeep Cherokee has. So that's why that's the best car to pull out. And then the next best would be the Grand Cherokee, but you might need spacers for that because it has a longer rod, and you can't have the rod length being off because then your pedal is going to be in the wrong spot. So once you've narrowed that down, I'd say getting the 95 or 96 regular Cherokee booster is the easiest, but the others can work. So the next thing I'm going to do is get under the hood of my car. I'm going to detach the lines off my proportioning valve and see if these don't fit up. before I start yanking everything out, because if they don't, then I can head on out to the store and see about getting some fittings and lines and all that stuff. So let's go. So here's the stock XJ system from the pre-94 booster and master, and then also the water bottle here is located. There's your proportioning valve and the 2 lines that run to it. So to really get to this, the first thing you want to do is pull out the water bottle, and it's a 13mm socket. Then there's 3 screws, and then the third one's down there. So that's the first thing you do, and then you can move on over here. Okay, so I just pulled the water bottle out. All it is the 3 screws and a little plug here, and then the hose. Now if you have water in the bottle, just be careful. This will start squirting out fluid, so you get your thumb on it as quick as you can, and then you move it over here on the ground and just lean it to where the fluid's not coming out. This bottle is halfway full, so it made it kind of easy. And so now what we're looking at is a big area to start working in. You can detach this line if it's in the way, this vacuum line. But what you want to do is take these lines off the proportioning valve, because what I'm going to do is check that the fittings are the right size. So I'm going to take these lines, and then you're going to start leaking hydraulic fluid, brake fluid a little bit. So you want to make sure to have plenty of towels and rags and stuff that's sticking under there and around the area, so you can plug it up and get the leaking to slow down. And then you're going to have to unplug that little sensor there. That's a little brake sensor. Get that out of the way so you don't break it. And then the best way to pull these lines off is with a pair of vice grips. And make sure you have a small pair even. Because as long as these have been on here, they don't come off very easy. And vice grips are the only way to get a good grip on most of these, because they're metric, and it's nearly impossible to find pipe wrenches and stuff that are the right size. So once you break them loose, then graduate to a wrench or something. But you don't want to strip them or anything. Like that one's pretty stripped up, but that one, it wasn't going to come out when I changed from my master here. But that's something to avoid. Just use vice grips, get them broke loose, and then you can graduate to a wrench, and they'll come out by finger by then too. Okay, so what I decided to do was pull the master cylinder, since I've done it before and it was easy. Again, I had to use the vice grips to pull these off, but none dripped out really. It shouldn't, even though it's full. And so here's your little booster and everything. So now we really got good access to this area, and I can start pulling these 2 off and then matching up to my new lines on that one. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And there's the end of that rod. Now I had a thought, and I'm not sure about doing this, but these rods might be interchangeable. Might be able to pull this rod out of this booster and put it in the other booster, but that's not gonna be guaranteed. I've never seen anybody do it, but on some boosters, on other cars, it's removable. So I'll look into that as we go along. But so when you're doing this, check up all your brake lines and make sure everything's going to match before you get too far, because you may need to go to the store. So I'm going to get going and get those off and check them. Okay, so I just pulled the booster out like I showed you guys before in the other Jeep. Just 4 bolts inside. Those are kind of hard to get to, but it's possible. Just slide the seat back all the way and crawl in there. So comparing these, you can see that the new one is a whole lot bigger than the other one. I mean, it's crazy. I was looking at the rod length. I haven't gone to measure them yet, but they look pretty close. I'm going to go measure them, but the thing to look for is you want to measure from the flat part of where this mounts to the center of that hole. Same on here. And if you put that spacer, then you want to subtract that spacer's thickness. So you start from the spacer out to the center of that hole. But you want to get these measurements the same. And so I'm going to go ahead and measure mine and go from there. The next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take the switch off of here. It has a little deal that slides out. You push this center ring out and it should come off and come apart, because you're going to want to start fabricating this rod to accept this switch, and it has to be done right so that your brake lights will work. So I'm going to get working on that. Alright, so you can see I've been getting this closer to the original one, where it has the flat side and the larger hole. The hole's I think it was 5/8 drill, and for your little switch it has a grommet that's supposed to fit in there, and then the switch will fit on. So getting this one side flat, you want to get it as perfect as possible flat, and then you only go as far as you need to so that the hole lines up with the switch, and then it should be perfect. Okay, so like I said, the rod, I have the flat side here, and then you're going to open up the hole a little bit so that matches the stock one. And then I've already put a little grommet in there. I think you can see it. That's part of the switch. This is the brake light trigger switch. And you got to make sure that you have that done correctly, because this switch may or may not work depending on how you did this flat spot on here. I've already tested mine and the lights come on perfectly, but basically what it does is when it's in there, when you hit your brake pedal, try to focus, come on, when you hit your brake pedal, it's going to ride on that flat spot and click this way or this way depending on the pedal, and it pivots here like that, and it'll switch on the brake lights. And so you want to make sure that that's working when you get back into the car, because you're going to need your brake lights. And the way to put the switch together is just put the main switch over the hole, and you're going to have this piece, and it's just going to slide in, kind of clicks in there, and then put this little nylon washer to hold it all together. So once it's all snapped together, you can see the switch just does that, pivoting. So there's your switch for the older Cherokees. I don't know what year they used this switch up to, but on my 1990 that's what they did. So you got to make sure that's correct for the new booster. And you can see the, like I showed earlier, the old booster, it's kind of the same thing, a little different, but it works on here too. So that's going to be the biggest part of the conversion right there, other than doing brake lines. So let me show you. Okay, so right here I have a piece of brake line that I had to purchase, because the ones that I got out of the junkyard weren't long enough to reach to my proportioning valve. So what you're going to want to do is get a run of brake line. It's the 3/16 brake line. And you're also going to need to go to your local AutoZone or wherever. At AutoZone they let you rent these kits. It's a flaring kit. It's pretty simple. Comes with the flare stuff and some little parts. So there's your flaring kit. And you also need a tubing cutter like this one, so you can cut the tubing. But when you get this tubing, you're going to want to find tubing, if you'll focus, with the flare like that on the end, on both ends really. There should be one on that end too, because this flaring tool is only going to make flares like this, like this one. Okay. So that the reasoning behind that is, out of the master cylinder, it has a different type of flare than what you're going to be putting to your proportioning valve. Out of the master cylinder, we'll be using these flares that you get on your tubing when you buy it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to cut the tubing down to whatever length you need, and then bend it the way you need it to, and then put the flare for the proportioning valve, which can be done with the tool. But you got to make sure that you take the fittings from your old lines, remembering what side they go on. So you can see this is that rounded flare over here. So this fitting needs to be, you need to be sure to put this fitting on that same type of flare. And then for the flare that you can make, you can use the fitting from that side. So you just make sure the right fitting goes on the right side, because those fittings are the correct fittings to go to your proportioning valve and then the master cylinder. So it's really a simple process. If you take your time, you could bend the line really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll go get it done. And they give you some fittings, but they're not the right ones for the car. So basically you just cut the fittings off the old lines and you can reuse them here. So I'm going to get started on that, and we'll check in a little bit. Okay, so we got the booster fitted in. Fits really tight. Got the back line already made out. Really tough bends. Trying to get around all that. Now we're just going to work on the front line and get our bottle put back in. Okay, so got the lines bent now. Made them real clean down to this proportioning valve. You can see it's a pretty tight squeeze to get this back line. If I can get a good shot on it, you can see where it goes in really close to the booster, but I got it to where it won't touch. And then the other obstacle was this throttle linkage, but it won't hit either. So I'd say that works pretty good. And you can see how clean that looks, sweeping kind of towards the rear. That's kind of the look we decided on. And then I even got to use the little clip right there. Got to use that clip. It's something I got from the Junkyard that was on this when I bought it. So hopefully that helps you guys out on how you're gonna do this install with the brake lines. I had to spend a lot of time doing the flares, making sure they were correct. But you can see how that wraps right around that booster. And then the important thing to remember when you're doing these lines is you want to leave a part that's completely straight coming out of these little nuts for as long as you can, because that's the only way you can use the flare tool and keep the nut on there at the same time. And then for removal, if these ever had to come off, that nut needs some room to move. And that was the real obstacle, was this back connection on the proportioning valve. You really can't see it, but that was the hard part. I think you can kind of see it because there's so close to tolerances in there. But I'm really happy with the mod. Everything looks good. The booster does fit. Everything does fit. I still haven't put the water bottle back in, but you probably are going to have to move the water bottle up from here to about here, because the back of the bottle does hit. I did test it, and so the bottle does need moved up a little bit, so you're going to have a few exposed holes, but it doesn't get in the way of any of this stuff. It barely squeezes, so everything does fit, everything does hook up. You might have to pull a little bit of extra hose for the water bottle and the wire for the little pump motor, but other than that, everything works out good. And so I also went ahead, put the fluid in, so I got new fluid in there. I bled simply at the proportioning valve, so I don't have to bleed the whole system, and took it out for a test drive, and I can lock up the brakes really well. Actually, this is surprisingly powerful, so I'm really happy with it. I also am going to be swapping out this proportioning valve at some point, because the rear brakes still aren't really working correctly. I think that's this is to do with that, and I didn't explain any of that before. This mod's simply just to upgrade the booster and master on the Jeep Cherokee. But for those of you who have issues with the rear brakes on these, something to look at is the proportioning valve. and you can get the stock replacement. I'm going to probably go along lines of getting an aftermarket adjustable proportioning valve, so I can adjust the bias to whatever I need. And then the only other thing was getting the switch together in here, wherever it might be. Where are you? So there's that switch. Once it's all connected in there, you're gonna have to make sure it works. But getting this this plug back on, that's crucial. When they get old, like mine is, they don't like to stay on very well. So I had to make sure that was working. And then the way to test that while you're driving is make sure you have no radio on or anything. And if you listen, if you hear that clicking noise, that's the relay that comes on with the switch, turning on your rear brake lights. So if you need to make sure it's working, you just listen for it. It should make a little clicking noise. I hope you can hear that. And what I did also was when I put this nut back on, I put a little bit of Loctite on it, just in case that nut ever wanted to come off, because that would be bad. You don't want that coming off. But so there's the switch on top of the brake pedal, and there's a good view of those 4 bolts. You can see it has that orange mark on it up over here. And there's another bolt. There's another one, and there's another one. Those are the booster bolts you need to tighten up. And then just this bolt that goes through for the switch. So make sure you do that. Ooh. And you'll be set. So the brake booster mod is a really excellent way to get way better braking power for a good price. Overall, I got about $100 into this, including gas, going out to the junkyard. So thanks guys for watching. I know it was a long video, but I hope it really helps you guys. If you want to see another detailed video, there's a guy here on YouTube called Bleepin' Jeep. He does a brake booster mod video. That's where I watched how to do this, so I'm hoping that you guys will watch his too. So hope I helped, and good luck guys.